so what you have in your hand, and this is for you to review later, this is our strategic plan for Ohio children. Our branding is each child, our future. And you see a vision statement there. We want every child, right, even those right here in Paulding County, to be challenged, prepared, and empowered for success, post-high school success, where they are resilient, like you, lifelong learners, making a positive contribution to society. We are not a production line to a job. Sorry. At least that's the way I say it. Let me qualify that. Because I'm here as the Vice President of the State School Board, but wherever I talk, I have to do this. This is Charlotte speaking. I don't think we should steer children to a job. We shouldn't steer them to a profession. We shouldn't steer them to college. We should build their capacity, their intellectual capacity, their what they call psychosocial capacity. That when they discover what they like to do, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to run my own ag business. When they say that, they have everything they need to be successful. That's what I want to see. Because just as there are no two children alike, there are no two schools alike, there are no two districts alike, and even the leadership of those districts, including the governmental leaderships at the county and city level, they are not alike. But you should have to have a burning heart for the next generation. See, I'm going to speak the truth in love, in public, because we do not want a generation that grow up and not understand the founding principles, values, and underpinnings that made this country great. We have to be people, and so I want to declare in this forum, because you can tell I'm passionate about this. You got to be courageous in this hour, because the battle is for the minds of our children. And you've got to be courageous and very strategic. And I'll tell you why in a minute. One of the reasons why is because we lost the battle on prayer in school. I don't know how many of you know the author Bill Bright, but he wrote a book called The Issue Is God. As part of one of the party's platforms, I don't know if you know this, they want to take in God we trust off our terms. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen it at the local, state, and national level in caucuses or groups where they do the Pledge of Allegiance. They took out one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice forever. They took out under God. When we swore in new board members at the first of this year, I think there were 5 of them, the Supreme Court justice who came to administer the oath of office had them raise their right hand, swear to uphold the Constitution, and that was it. There was only one new board member that said, I want to do my own oath of office. So at the end she said, so help me God. You got to listen. You got to hear. You got to be attentive. Because so we lost the battle for prayer. We lost the battle of evolution versus creationism in the schools. We lost the battle on Common Core. Did you all know that? Yeah, did y'all know that? All they did was change the name to Ohio Learning Standards. I had a teacher, retired teachers, go through the standards when there was a 5-year review process to adopt Common Core. And I took heat for it because I voted against it. They went grade band by grade band, strand by strand, and guess what? They did not, the only change they found was the name of the standards. They were no longer called Common Core, they were called Ohio Learning Standards. Words have consequences in this South. So you've got to be careful who you're talking to, but you've got to do what I've learned is called active listening. And you want to know what active listening is? I have acronyms for everything. LUB, love, not, I know it's not spelled right, but LUB. Listen to understand and validate. Validate what you hear. Listen to understand and validate. So, we're at a place, well, it really started about, what is this, 21, probably 218. How many of you have heard about social emotional learning? Positive behavior, and she's back, you raise your hand. PBIS, positive behavior interventions and support. How many of you have heard of trauma-informed instruction? Why, come on up here. Come on up here. You got, why? Are you a teacher? Come here.
It's me.
She knows exactly what I'm talking about. How many of you have heard of adverse childhood ACEs, adverse childhood experiences? And that leads to what? Trauma-informed. Tell them. No, just say it. Just, what's the title? What's the curriculum called? Just name one you know. Camera?
The one I've been stuck with is PBIS.
PBIS. And the intention, think about it, was good. Am I right? You know why? Because children were coming to school with trauma. They may have come because they've been abused, either in the home and they may be bullied. So the whole thing was how, if you look at the CASTLE, you heard the CASTLE framework. She knows it. The CASTLE framework. That framework is really designed to look at social emotional regulation. How does a child engage in learning? You know, social emotional learning was designed to help them be more engaged in learning. The teacher had professional development training about how to engage students in learning. Also self-regulation. You know, you have to take a pause. You heard of that one? It's the truth. Self-regulation in terms of what could be in conflict in the classroom and take away from instruction. My concern has been for teachers that you don't become overregulated and therefore you can't exercise your gift, your talent, and your probably got an education because you care about children and you want to do the best for children. So, is critical race theory being taught in Ohio? Guess what? You're going to have to find out. I don't know. I have gotten letters from all over the state from parents, from students. I've watched YouTube, local school board meetings that have gotten out of control. As you know, he had just been elected president of the Ohio School Board Association resigned only because he made an observation about social justice committee in their school district and what was being promoted on a one-page newsletter. And when he made it, he just said, I'm not sure this has a place in our school system. Well, there were local union people there. They got up. They went to the state union, OEA. Next thing you know, the board of trustees called this man in about what he said. The Ohio, I'm not going to call them States Association. Everybody started weighing in on what he should or should not do as the president of OSBA. But I can assure you, he was about children and their success. And after weighing the possibilities of being canceled, even by his private employer, he felt it would be best to resign and step away and have a greater impact. So he's one of those people I'm relying on for a lot of research. I say all of that to come to ask you a question. Are you ready? Are you woke?
Hell no.
Oh, I see a young man over there shaking his head. But guess what? You're going to have to be some woke citizens, woke teachers, and I'll tell you why. As I was praying about what is going on in the culture or in the world, woke means you are aware of all the oppression, the oppressors, the marginalized. But woke in this sense, the inspiration I got was, you've got to have wisdom. That's for the W. Wisdom is the beginning of knowledge. To overcome, the O is for overcome, and the K is for know. What you don't know can kill you, can indoctrinate you. What you don't know, evil. Now, someone heard me say that because I've been declaring this everywhere I go. They say, you saying SEL is evil? No. There are good, it's a framework and there are good tenets in that framework. But now, if you notice, even if you've heard of the gender panorama, all of a sudden, this is what is emerging, equity. And if you look on I think it's the second page of that document, equity is defined by the state school board. This is sort of like a one-page infographic, and it's in your paper, where you see the child in the center. And then you see the three core principles: equity, partnership, and quality schools. That's the loose around it. And the partnerships, when you read through the document, you see the first partner is the parent. It should be the parent. And then the next circle is, after the three core principles, are the 10 priority strategies to achieve the one goal. And I'm not going to go through that, and you can go through it at your leisure. And then, in order to achieve the one goal, we want to be sure that every child is given every opportunity to succeed in a holistic education model. That's why you have 4 learning domains. You have the foundational skills, what we used to call reading, writing, and arithmetic. Y'all remember that? And then you have well-rounded content. If the child wants to play violin or be an artist, you know that the extracurricular activity, those are well-rounded contents along with the foundational skill. Think about this. Our commitment is to a resilient lifelong learning. So it's going to take on 4 of these. But the newest ones these days is the social emotional learning domain. I think you need to say something. You know why she's not saying anything? In some districts, there's a culture of fear. Speaking the truth. And I'm talking about among teachers, and it shouldn't be that way. So you have social emotional learning, and you can see it is self-awareness. Really, affirmation of self-awareness really should occur in the home. When a child goes to school, they should know who they are. They should have that. Why are you smiling? You want to say something? No, I'm serious.
We homeschooled till they were in the 5th grade, because when they're 10 years old, they're a little more grounded spiritually.
He's absolutely right. And what he's talking about, if you look at children's psychiatric and health profession, adolescent brain development, the most impactful years are 0 to 7. And what they're trying to do now is take a framework, if you will. School district will tell you they're not teaching critical race theory. Did you hear me? You'll hear about D. As a matter of fact, I got a revelation on that. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. D. You know, that's the beginning of deify or deity. I'm not going to expound on that, but I want to challenge your thought process. You're going to hear diversity. It's good. We are, the way I, here again, is based on worldviews. There's only one race. One race. And then the pigmentation varies. But even there's only one pigmentation. You may have a little more pigmentation than I do, or I have. No, you're laughing, I'm telling you. So it's how we view each other. And the reason I'm so strong, many of you heard that the state school board adopted an equity, anti-racism resolution last July 2020. And if you look at the tenets, the preambles and what they wanted to see happen, everything was to be reviewed through the lens of equity, to be sure every subgroup population has access to, which is nothing wrong with that, to resources and opportunities to succeed. You'll see that the equity definition that the state school board used, everybody would agree with it. But let me tell you what's happening in districts. You know we're a local control state, right? Who knows what that means? Absolutely. Your local school district, the local board of education, the superintendent, and what I'm even discovering with superintendents and building, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, superintendents and building principals, the teachers have a lot of autonomy. In some districts, they have, this one superintendent was honest with me. He said, I'm gonna be honest, Charlotte, you know, there's so much going on. I don't know what's being taught in the classroom, but all we're responsible for, once the legislators adopt education policy, we are to write the administrative rule, the administrative code, so to speak, and guidance for implementing the policy in the local district. But the responsibility falls on the local school board, with the superintendent, with the community stakeholders, on what they call it model curriculum or lesson plans that they will use to teach math, social studies, American history, English language arts. I don't know if you know this, even math is being called racist. I said, well, as far as I know, as long as I've been around, 2 + 2 always equal 4. So,
Story problems are racist.
what?
Story problems are racist.
Story problems are racist. So, and I say this because you are of another pigmentation as a leader. There's going to be a question about, you know, it's almost like they're pitting, how should I say this? I'll go to Dr. King. We'll start judging people again by their color. We'll start judging policy by color. We'll start judging curriculum standards by color. We'll start judging opportunities by color. As a matter of fact, I need to read this. This came to me today, and I said, I've got to read it to you all. I couldn't outline the. And I'm going to stop so you all can ask me some questions. This is today's article with the Epic Times commentary. How many of you heard of the Epic Times? Okay.
That's my main news source.
Huh?
That's my main news source.
Really?
Yep.
Stay true. Be you best. I'm going to read a couple paragraphs. First paragraph, parents worried their kids are being indoctrinated with critical race theory can't get straight answers, and that is true. If you go to your state, oh no, we're not teaching critical race theory. If you ask the superintendent, oh no, we're not teaching critical race theory. Ask a building principal, oh, even what they call curriculum director. They will admit they're not teaching critical race theory. Local school boards and principals, this commentator said, lied to them, claiming children are merely being taught to be critical thinkers. On Saturday, that's this past Saturday, the truth came out. Teachers, unions, and activists held rallies in 22 cities to support critical race theory. The commentarian said, what they said was eye-popping. They unabashedly declared that their goal is indoctrinating students in far-left causes. Third paragraph. How many of you remember Howard Zinn? I'll have to do your homework. The Zinn Education Project, which organized Saturday's event, produces race-centric material for junior high and high schools across the country. Lesson plans are offered free to teachers. See, teachers, as long as they can meet the standards, you know, aren't you a retired teacher? And you have the model curricula, you can go to ODE's website or any site and download your lesson plan these days, free of charge. The lesson plans are offered free for teachers to download. Parents wondering where the critical race theory their children are getting comes from can go to the website. They'll be shocked. This is about Zinn. Zinn was founded by the late Howard Zinn, a Marxist historian who said that teaching social studies wasn't about dates and events. It was to make students want to change the world, overthrowing the status quo. A Zinn lesson called Students Design a Reparations Deal. You know, the current administration wants to incentivize teaching civic activism in schools. Are you all aware of that? This bill explains that students will be asked to improve on the flimsy reparation bills currently in Congress. Critical thinking isn't encouraged. This isn't a debate about whether there should be reparation. This is a one-sided indoctrination. As racial justice, that's something else you'll hear, racial justice, social justice, activists, students are all on the same side in this role place, says the Zinn website. Other extreme groups supplying social studies of materials for school, and listen to what this one says, and I'll stop after that. Southern Poverty Law Center and Black Lives Matter. The Southern Poverty Law Center tells educators to stand their ground against parents. and vigorously resists efforts to maintain the status quo. No wonder parents are getting the runaround. And it goes on to show the diversity of parents that are speaking out. They're black and white, they're Asian, they're brown, they're community leaders, they're business people, they're college graduates, they are professors. They're saying the only reason America is distinguished among countries of this world is because of our founding principles. Why do you think they want to scrub the Constitution? Because the Constitution declares all men are created equal. I say all of this to say you have the strategic plan. I gave Lori, you have a 2-pager, maybe a front and back on what to do when you go to a local school board. I also sent her a 1-page hyperlink for resources, starting with the Center of Christian Virtue. Have anybody ever heard of them out of Columbus? There are a lot of them located there. I serve it's called the most effective consideration when addressing your local school board. But I also serve as a screener for iVoter Guide. How many of you know about iVoter Guide? This is what you need to do. Because I can't tell you critical race theory is being taught in school. You will have to dig it out. But you got to be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. You got to know your source, and what iVoter suggests, recognize the difference between original sources versus news or commentary. You got to go to the original source document. And it doesn't include, what is it, Wikipedia. If you've been around long enough, there's been some definitions changed on there. Check original sources if possible. You got to check and compare multiple sources of information. That's why in these districts across the nation, there are parent groups, citizen groups that are coming together. They're making assignments to each other. But when you go, you got to ask probing questions, even from sources you personally trust. And I've seen this. You got to say, you don't go in there and say, you all are teaching critical race theory. Oh, do you have an equity committee? What's the purpose of the equity committee? Get them talking, engage in them. You got to be mindful of your emotions. At the state school board meeting, this gentleman, I had to convene the meeting because the president was out of town on an emergency, and we were having 119 public hearing, you know, where you get up and speak to an issue that's on the voting agenda or the non-voting agenda. This gentleman tried to say I was trying to squash freedom of expression. And I said to him, well, he was talking about, he had good points. He said, we want to get everybody mobilized so we can get people to run for the local school board. You know, most ballots, people don't even know who the school board candidates are or who they represent. You know, he had some good material. It was civic education. But I told him, this is not the appropriate forum. And just because I said that, he said I was trying to squash freedom of expression. So I said, sir, were you able to give your testimony without any interruption? Well, you said it was inappropriate. I said, sir, all due respect, were you able to give your testimony as you had written? And he said, yes. I said, well, guess what? I am not squashing freedom of expression. I'm trying to help you out, brother. I didn't say that, but you know, because I was saying you need to go to the State School Board Association or get with the State Social Studies and Civics Association or get with PTAs. I said, because we do need good school board people at the local, state, and national level. This is one thing you've got to purpose. You got to make a personal commitment to integrity and accountability for the truth. You can avoid spreading falsehood and rewarding the discovery of truth. Truth sets and keeps us free. So what I'm here to do today is say, I will be a voice for truth. I will be a voice for your children. I may not be there long. They may try to cancel me, which is okay, because I even have a comeback for that. I got inspiration. When they try to cancel me, I will respectfully declare, I am canceled. And they probably say, what in the world is she talking about? I am a courageous ambassador, nullifying cultural evil and lies. Thank you very much.
I don't do this, but one of the things that she did, she left you hanging. She said, are you woke? Some of you said no, but she didn't give you the definition.
Yes, I did.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wisdom overcomes known evil.
That's why you have to uncover it. They will keep going until you know for sure. And you don't go until you know for sure and be able to cite your source document.